very warm welcome to Bharata First. You're watching Big Picture with me, Frank Rausan Pereira. First, let me inform you about Bharata First Knowledge Center, an initiative that will help each one of you and transform the way you learn. We have started international relations and Indian art and culture classes, and they've had a phenomenal response. You too can be a part of this incredible journey. Go to our website, kc.bharatafirst.com, for more details and register now. The introductory offer ends soon, so make full use of it. And this will not only transform the way you learn and prepare for your competitive exams, but will help you in life itself. Now, since you're here, I would like to thank you for your continued support. For those of you who haven't already subscribed, please like the video, subscribe, hit the bell icon, and then all notifications. Do subscribe to our newsletter as well to get some incisive content. The Bharata First team runs a daily Big Picture quiz. Please participate by going through the description in Big Picture videos. Do contribute to keep our content alive. The links are in the description of this video. All this information, along with some must-see recommendations, are in the description of the video. Please go through it. And now, on to the discussion. Prime Minister Narendra Modi inducted 36 new ministers into his government in the biggest cabinet reshuffle since he came to power in 2014. At least 12 cabinet members, including IT and health ministers, resigned ahead of the reshuffle to make way for their colleagues. The new cabinet has 77 ministers, up from the previous figure of 52. The move comes ahead of elections in important states, including the crucial battleground of Uttar Pradesh. In this edition of Big Picture, we will analyze the recent cabinet reshuffle. Joining me on the program today are Ganapathy Subramaniam, Chief of Bureau, Puthiya Thalaimurai, KV Prasad, Senior Journalist, and Sreejith, Panickar, Political Analyst. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on this edition of Big Picture. KV Prasad, let me start the program with you first. What are your thoughts on the cabinet? You can't even call it a rejig. It's a real massive reshuffle. Several old faces out, several new faces in. The average age also has come down considerably. How would you look at it?
Well, I think first and foremost is we must say that this is a prerogative of the Prime Minister to reshuffle and rejig his cabinet. If you really look at it, this was the first big one after the 2019 swearing in. But in between, if you notice the various adjustments that were made, so this was technically the 7th or 8th time the cabinet was reshuffled or the portfolios were changed here and there. But as I mentioned, this was the first big one after the 2019. The fact that several big faces or known faces were shown the exit door means the Prime Minister, and we read reports about his appraisal of working of the government of the 2 years. So I guess some of this would be taken as performance-oriented, one. Two, I think the fact is the Prime Minister gave a lot more representations to members of other communities to try and balance, bring in some element of balance in the cabinet and its council of ministers. How it's going to play out, we don't know yet. Performance, 1A, 2, the kind of credibility of the faces and their ability to pull off what the Prime Minister's vision is about how he wants to carry or reconstruct the country and its economy in the post-COVID era. That's going to be the topmost challenge. I look at it. And third, bring in a blend of experience with people from different walks of life coming in. So I think we'll have to wait how it moves forward. Of course, there is a political messaging, which goes without saying, because you have elections coming in 2 states, which are pretty important.
Absolutely. And that's the point that I want to carry forward. Sreejith, let me come to you now. Clearly, there is a political message in all of this as well. One, of course, is perform or perish. That is very clear. But secondly, let's not forget there are several crucial elections that are coming to the fore as well. 5 state elections got over too. So that was playing on the mind as well. So how would you look at it from a political messaging point of view?
Well, Frank, I think, the elections in UP and some other states are around the corner. So that is probably one of the reasons why this expansion has happened. But then that's not the only reason. Because what I understand is that, they wanted to address the current politics because they wanted to give something which was long due for a lot of people, the likes of Jyotiraditya Scindia, for whom this was due for a long time. And then, of course, for people who have helped him, Mr. Modi and his party, like Sarbanan Sonobal, who actually relinquished his post and gave way to Himanta Biswas. And then people like Narayan Rane, who has been dilly-dallying between the Congress and the BJP for a long time, he was not able to get his foot in, and he got a place. And of course, Pashupati Paras as well. So I think for at least for these 3-4 people, I think their due, what the BJP had to give them was long due, and probably that is probably one of the things that they did. And this is probably not having to do anything with the elections that are going to happen in some of the states. That's one. And the second, I believe, is the number of allies in the NDA. That still is a concern, is what I believe, because most of the people are still from the BJP and only very few people are there from the other parties. I was keenly looking at whether the YSR Congress will get a representation, and if JDU gets, how many portfolios they will get. This was something that I was very keenly looking into, and there I'm actually disappointed, because the BJP probably believes that they themselves as a single unit can come back in the 2024 elections as well. But then it can be a miscalculation as well because of the dynamic politics that we are having. But then whether it is due to the performance that all these changes have happened, or are there some other criteria, I mean, apart from the elections that are going to happen in some of the states, and also the recent performance of BJP in some of the elections that were over, I just do not know. Basically, because you're looking at multiple challenges. For example, if it was performance, then I think one ministry that has underperformed hugely is the finance ministry, but then you don't see any change there. Nirmala Sitharaman stays put, and her deputy is even elevated as a full-time cabinet minister. But if you juxtapose that with what happened in the health ministry, I thought Mr. Harshvardhan was doing a decent job, but then both him and his deputy were supplanted by others. So I am just clueless as to whether it is purely performance, or maybe they'll have some other internal decisions also that they have considered before arriving at all these decisions. So I'm a little clueless on that aspect.
Absolutely. Ganapathy Subramaniam, how would you look at these changes, the reshuffle as such? Both panelists have put forth some very strong points. What are your thoughts?
We are moving from one set of elections to another set of elections, assembly elections. But in between this reshuffle and its impact, I would give full marks to the government, especially Prime Minister Narendra Modi, for a couple of points. One, he kept everything completely secret till the time Harshvardhan, Prakash Javadekar, and Ravi Shankar Prasad resigned. Nobody could find out that they are going to be shown the door. They are going to resign and they are going to move out of the cabinet. At the most, people might have thought that there will be some portfolio rejig. They will give up some portfolio, get some other portfolio. But it was kept a completely guarded secret. Full marks to the government for that. And number two, there is a lot of problem for the government and especially its image management when it comes to the way COVID has been handled. And there is a lot of blame on the government on the 5 assembly elections that have been held during the age of COVID. Why were elections held in Bengal, Tamil Nadu, etc., is a question that's being asked again and again. Has it contributed to the second wave? People are saying yes, it did. However, it was the election commission which held the election, and the BJP gained anything by it. In spite of that, now the bad image is stuck to the government. Therefore, they have decided to clean up the health ministry. Harshvardhan is out, his MPs are out, and a new set of people are in. Whether they will be able to get the required number of vaccines and also manage the third wave more successfully than the first 2 waves will be very important for the next set of 5 assembly elections. And the most important being Uttar Pradesh. If they win Uttar Pradesh, then they are halfway into the next election. They can move in very confidently of winning. If they lose Uttar Pradesh, they will be on the back foot. I think that is the reason behind this massive reshuffle and the kind of portfolios that have been allocated to people who they think are good managers, etc. And composition, caste-wise, scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, OBCs, etc., are being brought in. That is the political messaging. Administratively, as Mr. Prasad said, I don't know whether this will succeed or not, but we have to see it from the image management perspective. The government is trying to project a great image of reform.
We seem to have lost the connection with Ganapathy, but we'll try and reconnect with him. Right. So, KV Prasad, let me come back to you now and take the point that Ganapathy is making. It's a very important point about how big a factor is caste still, because very clear overtones of caste and those kind of equations in the rejig as well. So, how big a factor is caste in India in 2021?
Well, I think, Frank, in the last two decades on, the country moves in the path of progresses on various factors. The caste remains an inalienable part of the society and a very important calculus when political parties sit down to decide a allocation of tickets, b positions within the party structures and positions in the government structures wherever it's possible. So this is something which cannot be denied or taken away. However, one might wish that it goes away, but this is an inalienable part of the Indian politics, and this has remained. It has not been wished away. Let us put it that way. So that having been said, so I think any political party which is in power would like to try and see it does a maximum representation and important representation, because the signaling is very important. And for instance, in UP, they brought in an ally, Apnadal, Anupriya Patel. Now, we all know that Anupriya Patel holds a significant sway in the area in the eastern parts of Uttar Pradesh, in the Mirzapur belt in particular, where the Kurmi votes matter a lot. And she represents a very influential section of that community. So that is there, like that is, in fact, if you go further up, even in Bihar, Kurmi votes are important. We have the Chief Minister, Mr. Nitish Kumar, belonging to the community. So this is how the calculation changes, and political parties do decide when you field a candidate of a particular community or a caste in a combination, they start looking around for other seats where the influence waxes or wanes, and accordingly the changes into structures are made. So this is uniformly across political parties, unless of course parties which have been purely on, like for example, Apnadal has come up, or several parties are there in UP in particular. Is a not just caste but it's subcaste. This has been happening over the years, and Mandal agitation led to, and the OBC classification that came up much later, may brought about that political awareness too. So I think that's a natural reflection when it comes to representation in the governments or other echelons of the party.
Absolutely. Sreejith, Panickar, how much of this is a cleanup act with regards to the COVID-19 pandemic? Because, the perception among the people is that the government has failed. The government has not been there for the people, and hence the second wave has hit us so badly. How much of that is going to play on the minds of the people, and how much of it has played on the minds of the Prime Minister to go for such a reshuffle?
No, how much of general perception has contributed to this rejig is something which I'm still not sure. That is why I said about the example of Harshvardhan and also compared that with the finance ministry. One of the ministries that has really underperformed over the last 6-7 years would be, in my opinion, would be the finance ministry, and they have taken a lot of decisions which they had to retract. For example, taxes on angel investment. A lot of such provisions were introduced and then they were to be taken back. So if general perception was anything to go by, then I think the one ministry where a lot of changes would have come, because it was well within their control before the COVID period, it was the finance ministry. So that did not happen. And certain other ministries, for example, if general perception was one to be considered, then probably we needed to see some changes in the agriculture department. We did not see that because the nationwide protest happened. The government, although it was willing to conduct a dozen rounds of discussions with the agitating farmers and the intermediaries, that was still there. But still, the general perception was that the government was not willing to kind of do any compromise on the laws that it brought. So I don't think it had to do anything with the general perception. For example, take the case of Ravi Shankar Prasad. There was a very strong fight with the social media giants, including Twitter, that he was undertaking, and he was very open about the decisions and the policies that the government was pursuing. But then he still had to be removed as minister. The environmental impactment assessment, impact assessment. That was something which was being considered, and then Prakash Javadekar was probably the minister in charge, and he was removed from that. COVID vaccination also. I mean, the major challenge for the new ministry or the Modi government going forward would be on two counts. One is regarding the completion of an improbable mission of vaccination completion by the end of the year, which looks improbable as we speak. So that is one thing, and the anticipation for probable waves following the second wave would be another headache. So is it right to replace both the minister and his deputy during this critical juncture is again something which is a moot point. So I think it does not have anything to do with the general perception or the perception of the public, but there could be some hard feelings, some very strong feelings and opinions within the ministry and within the party, which might have led to all these decisions. Otherwise, I do not think really Ravi Shankar Prasad changing or Nirmala Sitharaman continuing in the role.
Absolutely. Ganapathy, coming back to you now, where does this leave some of the tall BJP leaders that we've known over the years, over the decades, really to stand strong with the BJP, stand by the BJP all throughout? Someone like a Prakash Javadekar, someone like a Ravi Shankar Prasad. Uh, what does this mean for them?
I think that sooner or later they will be given important positions in the party or something to do with the forthcoming assembly elections, because the BJP is really keen to go all guns blazing into the UP assembly elections, which is almost like a semi-final kind of thing. So in the recent Zilla Parishad elections, they are claiming that they have captured majority of the Zilla Parishads, but there was a lot of violence and there are a lot of question marks about the popularity of Yogi. They might showcase Ayodhya temple construction, etc. But there are many other things that are going against the government. For example, prices of fuel. Petrol and diesel are selling at historically very high prices, more than 100 rupees a liter. With kind of a price, how are they going to expect to gain the confidence of people in Uttar Pradesh? Similarly, inflation is very high, wholesale inflation as well as retail inflation. So to manage the political situation, they will definitely require some of these political heavyweights like Ravi Shankar Prasad and Mr. Prakash Javadekar to work in UP and Punjab. In Punjab, I think BJP does not have much hope. The Congress is still strong. Akalis have deserted the BJP, and Aam Aadmi Party is trying to make a dent. So therefore, I don't think the BJP on its own has much chance in Punjab. But in UP, they will try to manage quite a major push, and that's where I think they are going to use these big heavyweight political leaders.
Absolutely. KV Prasad, coming back to you now, we've also seen the inclusion of several retired civil servants and bureaucrats in the cabinet. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I think if you look at it, in the first instance, we had Mr. R.K. Singh coming in as the power minister in the previous government, Modi 1.0, as they would call. And now we have then subsequently in the second tenure, we had Hardeep Singh Puri joining in from the Foreign Service, tasked to run the urban affairs. I guess there is two ways of looking at it. One, the ability of bureaucrats who come into politics and administration through the ministerial positions probably know better ways to negotiate the labyrinths that go through the bureaucratic red tape, as we call. So to cut that, you need to. And one of the hallmarks of this government, or at least it's trying to project, is its delivery. That it is faster in delivery in delivering projects on time. And this is a bane for a very long time. Publicly funded projects have a very long lag time. Plus, there are other factors that kick in. Some issues are there, some concerning space, environmental clearances are one aspect of it, and so on and so forth, land acquisition, so on. There are many niggling issues that are to be attended to. Probably a bureaucrat would find the rhythm much better. That's one way of looking at it. And two, for instance, the latest case, as we hear, is bringing in Mr. Vaishnav, who is a technocrat who had a cross-sectoral experience. Now, giving him three very key portfolios. The railways, the communication technology, ICT ministry, and all. So again, trusting on somebody whom the prime minister has placed a trust on to deliver on certain key areas as we move into it. Because if you look at it, for instance, Mr. Puri, one of the bigger tasks he has been working on is to deliver houses for the poor. under the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. Now, we don't, I mean, we keep reading figures on the dashboard. Just like another bureaucrat, if one were to say, but he's still not in the ministry, is working on a Jal Jeevan mission to try reach tapped water to every house by 2024. Very ambitious targets, but then the attempt is to push them. So I guess that is one thing, but it's a little in contrast if you listen to the kind of the speech the Prime Minister made in the last assembly, last Parliament session, where he had some different words, and he was not very happy with the way bureaucracy was running everything. So I guess that it will juxtapose with what is it. So I think he has placed faith in certain key individuals whom he trusts and probably has experience with dealing with the situation.
Absolutely. And Sreejith, as far as what to expect next, or what is going to be the key focus of the cabinet as a whole going forward?
Well, I think the immediate thing, or probably a yardstick by which the public would perceive the new government to be effective or not, would be on the vaccination drive itself, because that is the immediate problem at hand. So I think it again would be on two counts, because there was this vaccination policy which was kind of privy to a few people, and the court even asked them to publish that and bring forth some changes in it. The pricing of the vaccines, the differential pricing, and all these courted controversy, we know that. And also the ex gratia assistance that would be given to the families of the deceased in this case. So there would be a lot of things which the health ministry will have to settle, also with assistance from other ministries, especially the finance ministry. That is one point. And the second would be the speed up to which the government can fulfill its promise of this December deadline of vaccinating all the people in the country, and at the same time the precautionary measures, the anticipatory measures that it will take to contain any future waves. So I think still the effort is largely depending on how the government is going to deal with COVID in the subsequent phases, and therefore the changes in the two ministries is something which does not augur well, is what I believe, because the others were probably having experience in the field itself, and they were having involved in this issue right from the beginning. So a change at a critical juncture is not something that is auguring well for the government. But then it depends. It's a complete fight. It's a fight of the entire cabinet. It's a fight of the entire party as well. So there will be enough systems to take care of that. So that is one point. The second point, of course, is the petrol price. We can blame the state governments, the center government, but at the same time, what is it that the center doing to bring this to the GST Council and have a consensus is something which will be repeatedly questioned by the people now that the petrol price is consistently over 100 rupees per liter in every state in the country. So this again is something which affects people, just like the COVID vaccination. This is something which affects every person in every corner of the country. So that again will be a yardstick based on which the performance of the government would be evaluated by the people. And of course, there are certain other things which has made a section of the people hostile to the government. The changes in the farm laws, and the implementation of probably the CAA, which is going to happen. And also people are thinking about certain other policy changes as well. As we speak, we are talking about the introduction of a two-child norm in some of the states, although it was in practice in some of the states. Whether it would be a countrywide thing, whether the uniform civil code will come at any point of time near in the future. So all of these things would be concerns for the government, but I still think that the fear of COVID is still looming large, and therefore whatever immediate steps the government can do to contain it and also to make people free from this by vaccinating them still takes the topmost priority for the government. And at the same time, as I said, the ex gratia assistance, especially because it has to be dealt out with active support from the finance ministry. The finance ministry will also be in a spot, and how they'll recover from that is also something that I am keenly looking forward to.
Absolutely. And Ganapathy Subramaniam, please close the show for us with your concluding remarks.
Finally, I see 2024 as the target. You know, because of that target, all these changes are taking place now. 2024 general elections, 2023 there will be elections in key states like Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh, etc. Then there is also Gujarat Assembly election. So the calculation is like based on all the probabilities for those elections. And railways now probably is running at maybe a fraction of the capacity which normally it used to. Railway has to be brought back on track. That's why there is a change there also. and in other departments as well. COVID is a big challenge. We don't know. It's already a huge challenge. It may become a bigger challenge, as Mr. Panickar says. Third wave, what will be the impact? Nobody knows. And when will the vaccination be completed? Nobody knows. Will it be given or not? The courts have to be informed about that. Nothing has been decided. So there are a lot of difficulties which the government will face from now up to 2024, and there will be 10 full years of anti-incumbency. I think, therefore, this major rejig has been done now. Probably one more will be done, maybe closer to the 2024 election, to project one side image of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas that the Prime Minister keeps saying. On the other hand, play all the caste equations and other state level politics, etc. So will this total game work out from this point on? The start has been done with the big bang publicity. Whether it will work out or not, we will come to know in course of time.
Absolutely. All right. On that note, we'll call it a wrap on this edition of Big Picture. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on the program and putting things into perspective for us. Well, what's coming out of this discussion is that as caste plays a big role in Indian politics, we have seen a reflection of that in the cabinet reshuffle as well. The public sentiment and the general perception doesn't seem like it has had an impact on the reshuffle. The rejig has been done keeping in mind assembly elections coming up in the near future and the general elections in 2024. Bureaucrats like R.K. Singh and Hardeep Puri have done well, and hence we've seen more civil servants, those who have been tested, make it to the cabinet. This is a major overhaul where many bigwigs have been shown the door, but in all likelihood, they will be given something important in the party establishment and to take care of the states, especially where elections are due. Now, before I go, let me once again inform you about Bharata First Knowledge Center, an initiative that will help each one of you in your competitive exams journey and transform the way you learn. We have started international relations and Indian art and culture classes, and they've had a phenomenal response. You too can be a part of this incredible journey. Go to our website, kc.bharatafirst.com for more details and register now. The introductory offer ends soon, so register today. Since you're here, I would like to thank you for your continued support. For those of you who haven't already subscribed, please like the video, subscribe, hit the bell icon, and then all notifications. Do subscribe to our newsletter as well to get some incisive content. The Bharata First team runs a daily Big Picture quiz. Please participate by going through the description in Big Picture videos. If you like the content, please contribute to keep our content alive. The links are in the description of the video. All this information, along with some must-see recommendations, are in the description of the video. Please go through it. That's it from me. See you again next time.